Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you with one thought to ponder while you peruse this following selection, and that is that things are not always what they seem. Or are they? Yes, are they? Very well then, without any further ado on my part, I sincerely hope you do enjoy Edgar Allan Poe's The System of Dr. Tarr and Professor Fether.
During the autumn, while on tour through the extreme southern provinces of France, my route led me within a few miles of a certain private madhouse of which I had heard much. I thought the opportunity too good to be lost. It was a fantastic chateau, much dilapidated. Its aspect inspired me with absolute dread. I half resolved to turn back, but I soon grew ashamed of my weakness and proceeded. The superintendent ushered me into a small but exceedingly neat parlor. Monsieur Malliard, I presume.
Quite right.
I appreciate you allowing me to inspect your establishment, Monsieur Malliard.
Don't mention it, Dr. Pascal. I will show you all attentions during your visit.
I have heard at Paris that this institution of yours is managed upon what is vulgarly termed the system of soothing, that all punishments are avoided, that confinement is seldom resorted to, that your patients, while secretly watched, are left much apparent liberty, and most of them are allowed to roam about the house and grounds in the ordinary apparel of persons in right mind. Is she a patient?
Oh, no. A member of my family. My niece, and a most accomplished woman.
I beg 1,000 pardons for the suspicion. The excellent administration of your affairs here is well known in Paris, and I thought it just possible, you know.
Oh, yes, say no more. Or rather, it is myself who should thank you for the commendable prudence you have displayed. We seldom find so much of forethought in young men, and more than once some unhappy contretemps has occurred in consequence of thoughtlessness on the parts of our visitors. While my former system was in operation and the patients were permitted the privilege of roaming to and fro about the house at will, they were often aroused to a dangerous frenzy by injudicious persons who called to inspect the house. Thus I was obliged to enforce a rigid system of exclusion, and none obtained access to the premises upon whose discretions I could not rely.
While your former system was in operation, do I understand you then to say that the system of soothing of which I have heard so much is no longer in operation?
It is now several weeks since we have concluded to renounce it forever.
Indeed, you astonish me.
We found it absolutely necessary, sir, to return to the former usages. The dangers of the soothing system were at all times appalling, and its advantages have been much overrated. I believe that in this house it was given a fair trial if ever in any. We did everything rational humanity could suggest. I'm sorry that for your sake you could have paid us a visit at an earlier period so that you might have judged for yourself. But I presume that you are conversant with the soothing system and with its details.
Well, not altogether. What I've heard has been third or fourth hand.
Well, I may state the system then in general terms as one in which the patients are ménagés, humored. We contradicted no fancies which enter the brains of a man. On the contrary, we not only indulged but encouraged them, and many of our most permanent cures have been thus effected. There is no argument which so touches the feeble reason of the madman as the argumentum ad absurdum. We've had men here, for example, who fancied themselves chickens. Now the cure was to insist upon the thing as fact, to accuse the patient of stupidity and not sufficiently perceiving it to be fact, and thus to deny him any other meal than that which properly appertains to a chicken. In this manner, a little corn and gravel were made to perform wonders.
But was this species of acquiescence all?
Oh, by no means. We put much faith in amusements of a simple kind. Music, dancing, gymnastic exercises generally, cards, certain classes of books, and so forth. We affected to treat each individual as if for some ordinary physical disorder, and the term lunacy, that was never employed. Now, a great point was made to set each lunatic to guard against the actions of all the others. To repose confidence in the understanding and discretion of a madman is to gain him body and soul. And in this manner, we've been able to dispense with an expensive body of keepers.
And you never confined your patients?
Never.
And you had no punishments of any kind?
Well, we didn't have any punishments to speak of, but, well, very rarely we would convey a patient to a secret cell, lest his disorder should infect the rest. And there we would keep him until we could release him to his friends. For with the raging maniac, we have nothing to do. He is usually removed to the public hospitals.
And now you have changed all this, and you think for the better.
Oh, decidedly. The system has its disadvantages, well, even its dangers. But it is now happily exploded through all the madhouses of France.
I'm very much surprised at what you tell me. For I made sure that at this moment, there was no other method of treatment for mania existed in any portion of this country.
You are young yet, my friend, but the time will come when you will learn to judge for yourself what is going on in the world without trusting to the gossip of others. Believe nothing you hear and only half of that you see. Now, about our madhouse, it is clear that some ignoramus has misled you. After dinner, however, when you have had time to sufficiently recover from the fatigue of your journey, I would be happy to take you over the house and introduce to you a system which, in my opinion, and in that of everyone who has witnessed its operation, is incomparably the most effectual yet devised.
Your own? One of your own invention?
Well, I'm proud to say that it is, at least in some measure. Now, I cannot let you see my patients just yet. To the sensitive mind, there's always more or less of the shocking in such exhibitions, and I do not want to spoil your appetite for dinner. Come, we will dine. I can give you some veal à la Saint-Méneholt with cauliflower and velouté sauce. After that, a glass of Clovy Rougeau, and then your nerves will be sufficiently steadied. Ah, madame, monsieur. We had a fellow here once. A fellow who fancied himself a teapot. And, by the way, is it not especially singular how often this particular crotchet enters the brains of the lunatic? There is scarcely a madhouse in France which cannot supply a human teapot. Now, our gentleman was a Britannia ware teapot, and was very careful to polish himself every morning with buckskin and whitting.
And then we had here not long ago a certain person who had taken it into his head that he was a donkey, which, allegorically speaking, you would say was quite true, for he was a troublesome patient, and we had much ado keeping him within bounds. Then, for a long time, he would eat nothing but thistles, but of this idea, we soon cured him by insisting upon his eating nothing else. But then, for a long time, he was continually kicking out his heels, like so. Hee-haw! Hee-haw!
Monsieur de Coq, I will thank you to behave yourself. Please keep your feet to yourself. Is it necessary? Try to illustrate a remark in so practical a style. Our friend here can surely comprehend you without all this. You are nearly as great a donkey as the poor unfortunate imagined himself. Your acting is very natural, as I live.
May the pardon speak, and I had no intention of offending. Monsieur de Camp will do himself the honor of wine with you.
Come, mommy. Allow me to send you a morsel of this veal à la Saint-Méneholt. You will find it particularly fine.
Thank you, no, but to say the truth, I'm not particularly partial to veal à la Saint. What is it? For I do not find that it altogether agrees with me. I will change my plate, however, and try some of the rabbit.
Eugenie, change this gentleman's plate and give him a side piece of this rabbit au cat.
This what?
Rabbit au cat.
Thank you. But upon second thoughts, no. I think I'll just help myself to some of the ham.
Oh, and then among other oddities, we had here a patient, once upon a time, who very pertinaciously maintained himself to be a Cordova cheese, and went about, knife in hand, soliciting friends to try a small slice from the middle of his leg.
He was a great fool, beyond doubt, but not to be compared to the certain individual whom we all know, with the exception of this strange-looking gentleman. I mean, of course, the man that took upon himself to be a bottle of champagne and went off with a pop and the fizz in this fashion.
And then, there was an ignoramus who mistook himself for a frog. seen him. It would have done your heart good to see the natural airs that he put on. Why, sir, if that man was not a frog, I can only observe that it is a pity he was not. His growth thus, was the finest note in the world, B flat. And when he put his elbows on the table, thus, after taking a glass or two of wine, and distended his mouth thus, and rolled up his eyes thus, and winked to them with excessive rapidity thus. Why, sir, you would have been lost in admiration of the genius of the man.
I have no doubt.
And then there was Petit Gaillard, who fancied himself a pinch of snuff, and was very distressed because he could not take himself between his own finger and thumb.
Oh, and since there was Jules Desourier, who was a very singular genius indeed. He went mad with the idea that he was an apple. He persecuted the cook to make him up into pie, so a thing which the cook indignantly refused to do.
For my part, I am by no means sure that an apple pie à la Desourier would not have been very capital. Indeed.
You astonish me.
Very good indeed. Mother mia, Fether is a wit, a droll, and you must not understand it to the letter. And then there was Von Legrand, an extraordinary personage in his own manner. He grew deranged through love, and fancied himself possessed of two heads. One he imagined was the head of Cicero. The other he maintained was a composite of two, being Demosthenes from the top of the head to the mouth, and Lord Brom from the mouth to the chin. He was a great fool, and he would have convinced you of his being in the right, for he had an absolute passion for the oratory. For example, he used to leap up onto the dinner table thus, and make grandiose statements of how great and grand he was.
And then there was Bouillard, the teetotum. I called him the teetotum because he was seized with the droll, but not altogether a rational crotchet that even converted into a teetotum. It was roared with laughter to see you see instead. He would turn around and put one heel by the hour in this manner. So.
But your Monsieur Bouillard, he was a madman, and a very silly madman at the best. For who, allow me to ask you, ever heard of a human teetotum? What the thing is a third? Madame Joyeuse was a more sensible person, as you know. Oh, she had a crochet, but it was instinct with common sense, and gave pleasure to all who had the honor of her acquaintance. She found, upon mature deliberation, she had been turned into a chicken cock, but as such, she behaved with propriety. Oh, she flapped her wings with prodigious effect, that's all. And as for her crow, it was delicious.
Madame Joyeuse, I will thank you to behave yourself. You may either conduct yourself as a lady should do, or you may quit the table forthwith. Take your choice.
Oh, Madame Joyeuse was a fool. But there was really much sound sense after all, in the opinion of Eugenie Salsabet. She was a very beautiful but painfully modest young woman who thought the ordinary mode of habiliment indecent and wished to dress herself always by getting outside instead of inside her clothes. But it is a thing quite easily done. You have only to show and then show.